It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Well, Heidi ho there. Welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show. It's me. As always, Douglas Coleman. How are you? Thank you for joining us. We've got Stephanie Czajkowski here today. Stephanie returns as the bald badass Hammerhead in the season 2 of DC's superhero series Doom Patrol, which is now on HBO Max and DC Universe. It premiered on June 25th. Stephanie talks about Doom Patrol and about shaving her head and her very brave battle with cancer in this very sort of personal interview, which I was very privileged to host and be a part of. So thank you to Stephanie for sharing that with us. It might help people who are also going through the same situation. I know that I went through it with my father, and it's a very difficult time for many people, for families and couples who have to endure that. And continuing on with our complete radio promotional package, we are featuring Winchester 7 and the Runners and their track The St. Simon Killer. For more information on Winchester 7 and the Runners, please go to our website and click on the featured music artist link, and there you will find their profile and links to their music and bio. So, without further ado, here is Winchester 7 and the Runners and their track The St. Simon Killer.
Celebrate. That's his ways with fiction.
You're listening to Mr. Smooth and Savvy right here on The Douglas Coleman Show. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
Hi there, this is Stuart Epps, record producer. This is my story about Elton John, working with him in those early years, going back to 1967 at Dick James, all the amazing tours, those first recordings, going through to Rocket Records, and it's an amazing story about his incredible rise to stardom and my part in that. So look forward to taking you on that journey. So here we go. Yeah, and to order this great audio CD, please just email me at stuartepps@talk21.com. That's Stuart, Stuart, Epps, EPPS, at talk, TALK, 21 in figures.com. Stuart Epps at talk21.com. Email me and I'll give you all the details for buying this brilliant audio disc. Thank you. Bye.
DJC Music and DJC Productions are pleased to announce a brand new website. We have started a listing website for radio show hosts as well as potential show guests. This is a meeting site where hosts and guests can come together. Show hosts can list their show and types of guests they're interested in booking. Potential guests can list their talents, bio, accomplishments, or anything they feel makes them an interesting radio show guest. There are no recurrent payments, only a one-time $5 listing fee. Your listing will stay up until you decide to cancel. Previous guests of The Douglas Coleman Show are welcome to submit their guest listing free of charge. Go to radiohostsandguests.com. That's radiohostsandguests.com.
Tired of living in a culture of lies, fake news, and alternative facts? The Pro-Truth Pledge reverses the tide of lies by calling on politicians, and everyone else, to commit to truth-oriented behaviors. The pledge asks signees to commit to 12 behaviors that research in behavioral science shows lead to truthfulness, such as clarifying one's opinions and the facts, citing one's sources, and celebrating people who update their beliefs toward the truth. Private citizens who sign the pledge get the benefit of contributing to a more truth-oriented society. Public figures get more substantive rewards for signing the pledge in the form of positive media and public recognition. The pledge crowdsources the truth by asking volunteers to evaluate the statements of public figures who sign the pledge. Take the pledge, demand that your elected representatives do so, and encourage your friends to take it at protruthpledge.org.
Acclaimed author of Garden, Jane Yates brings you the first book in a new trilogy, Octopus Pirate, a story of a foundling who has unusual talents, such as the ability to communicate with octopuses. As a baby, he was washed up on an island off the Scottish mainland. An eccentric former nun who lives alone with cats brings him up. He joins a circus and narrowly escapes plots against him, flees to Cornwall, builds a replica pirate ship that's also an airship to travel back in time to fight real pirates. Get your copy today from Amazon, only 99 cents.
Are you an independent musician? How would you like to have your songs played on hundreds of radio stations just like the one you're listening to right now? Join MusicSubmit.com and we'll promote your music to radio stations and blogs in your genre. It's free to set up your account, and we guarantee your music will be considered for airplay by radio stations worldwide. Why not sign up today? It's free. MusicSubmit.com. Radio promotion for indie musicians.
The show's about to start!
I'm coming as fast as I can.
And now...
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Again?
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto! Ooh, don't know my own strength.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Stephanie Czajkowski. Hi, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm good. You did a good job with that.
Well, your PR people gave us a little help when they spelled it C-H-E-C-K, Howski. I had a friend once, his last name was Przbilowicz, and it had more Z's. I mean, you have one Z. I think he had about 3 in his name.
Sometimes I think, like, you know, Polish people were just like, we're just going to try and screw you up. Have at it. But it's. I have to say, like, you know, it's been a conversation starter. There's some people who are like, I just don't even want to say what that name is, and other people who are like very into trying to pronounce it right. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
Well, if you split your name between the J and the K, the Kowski part's pretty easy.
Yeah, exactly.
But
it's always that ch sound at the beginning.
The C-Z-A-J, that's kind of a thrower in English, because you just kind of look at that and go, you know, and it doesn't quite roll off your tongue, you know.
Not in any way, shape, or form. Not in any way, shape, or form.
So, how are you? Doing all right?
Yeah, doing all right. I'm in Los Angeles, and it's very nice out. I mean, we're, you know, hunkering down still because there's, you know, threat of our mayor putting us under another shelter-in-place order. So, you know, we're just trying to be careful so we can go out and do things we can do, you know?
Well, you guys, I mean, I'm in Vegas, but we're in a totally different scene than L.A. You guys are really spiking on the virus now, right?
We are. Yeah, we are. And so, you know, and which is kind of sad, just because, you know, we had done such a good job. You know, we did a really good job. We flattened it. It seemed to flatten. And then it was like, you know, May came and it was like, everybody was like, yay, we're done. And now it's like, and here we go. So I'm like, we just have a lot of people, you know?
Well, that's true.
A lot of people.
Yeah. Has Governor Newsom said that he was going to close the state down again, or not yet?
No, I mean, they've been walking. It seems that they've been walking some things. You know, they've been trying to walk things back. Like in addition to being an actress, I teach at. I'm a fitness instructor, and you know, when they put out that thing that totally reminds me of like 9/11, like that chart that looks like a rainbow, like you're at this is the worst, like 9, this is where you can catch it. You know, gyms are like an 8 on there. So when our cases were spiking, there's certain things like mandatory mask has been in place over the 4th of July. You know, they closed beaches. People decided they didn't care, so they went anyway. I mean, that happens. And they closed, you know, restaurants, bars. And for me in particular, like, we had to have our members wear masks at least within the gym, but when they were exercising, because it is hard to exercise in a mask, not surprisingly. And so, but now they're required by the state ordinance to both wear a mask and gloves while exercising all the way through. So, so it's little stuff. It's kind of like, what can we do to not have to shut everything down again, I think is where they're going, you know?
I think if I had to wear a mask to exercise, I just wouldn't exercise. Because your face gets so hot with that thing on. And you start getting like, well, for me anyways, I've got kind of sensitive skin. I would get a rash around my face, and it just, no. Yeah. That's tough.
It's weird because like there are legitimate people who get what are called altitude training masks, which is basically it lessens the amount, there's filters and it lessens the amount of air you get while working out with the idea to train your body to work out at altitude. It doesn't necessarily work overall. However, it makes, you know, from what I've read, it actually makes you better at breathing. So, and I've seen people at the gym with them, and it looks like they're in a Batman movie. They look like Bane from Batman, and they're like, and I was like, my husband and I, I'm like, well, if I'm going back and I have to wear a mask anyway, I might as well just get one of those, because supposedly it's supposed to make it like, let's make lemons out of lemonade and find out if this works, because now I won't feel like such a jerk doing it.
If you could get one that looks like the Darth Vader mask, you know.
I know, exactly. And we actually did get 2 of them, and it doesn't look like Darth Vader, but it looks, you know, it definitely looks pretty bad. It looks pretty badass. What can I say?
Well, I happened to notice when you had the video on when we first connected that you do have some hair now.
Yes, it's been. I have to say, you know, we were in production for Doom Patrol, and I was bald, and they stopped production because of COVID, like 2 days before I was supposed to fly out from my last episode of the season. And then, everybody was in shelter in place. And I have to say, not having hair during a quarantine makes it real nice because you don't have to worry about having to go get your hair cut.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
You just take out the buzz thing. And I have gotten a haircut actually since then. It's grown back pretty fast. It's been weird because I've cut it, it's grown back, then it was bald, and then it grew back, and then I shaved it again, and I was like, it doesn't seem like I have a lot of hair, and then I was like, oh, I really do. It becomes a lot more hair when you leave it in a pile on the floor. So
it always looks like there's more on the floor than was on your head. I don't understand that.
Exactly.
Did you finish the season? Did you manage to finish it, or do you still?
We did not. We did not. Initially, we were supposed to do 10 episodes, and we had 1 week left of shooting, which was going to be a pretty heavy week for, to finish that season finale. And from what I understand, I haven't seen what they did, but I guess they've basically capped it at episode 9 instead of 10. So there's quite the cliffhanger ending. And I do know what happens in episode 9, and I'm like, yeah, I could see them ending on that. That's good. It definitely leaves you wanting more. I will say that.
Now, forgive me, but I have not seen Doom Patrol, so I don't really know what it's about. Can you give us a quick... There's probably one other person on the planet that hasn't seen it.
No. There's a number of other people. HBO Max has made it a little bit more accessible. Doom Patrol is basically, it's a group of kind of outcast superheroes, or actually like kind of anti-heroes almost, who all live at this place called Doom Manor, and they all have something. They're all kind of misfits and outcasts. In season 1, we get introduced to them and get an idea of what their origin story is and how they've kind of come to be this kind of motley family, or kind of motley family of sorts. And in this group, one of the main characters is a character called Crazy Jane, who has multiple personalities. And when she is on the surface interacting with, people in the world, if something triggers her, something that's angry or something, one of her 65 personality or 64 personalities will come out, and they basically embody superpowers. So this one actress, Diane Guerrero, while on the surface kind of embodies all these things and has all these different superpowers depending upon what personality comes out. I play one of her dominant personalities, Hammerhead, which is kind of a tough broad who settles things with her fists. She's very aggressive, likes to drop a lot of F-bombs. So every so often we go inside. If you've seen the movie Inside Out, which is a good way of like kind of explaining it, that animated movie Inside Out, when you go inside the girl's head and you meet her different feelings that are embodied by a different character. Hammerhead is basically anger and aggression within Jane's head. And throughout the seasons, we go inside and we meet the embodiment of these personas, as it were.
Is this like Mad Max at all?
It's actually not.
Okay.
I like to think of it, it reminds me, it's kind of in the vein of, because it is based on a graphic novel by a man named Grant Morrison, or at least there's different versions of it, who also did the television show with Christopher Maloney, Happy. So it kind of lives in the world of Watchmen and The Boys. It's on Amazon. It's, of the DC universe, but it's a little bit darker, a little bit edgier, just really well written. I mean, it's really well crafted.
Well, I'm going to have to check it out now because you've made me very curious. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things of like, yes, as somebody who's on something, you're always like, you should watch it. But legitimately, my husband and I, it's on Thursday, they've been doing it, and they drop an episode every Thursday night. It's become our must-see TV on Thursdays, despite the fact that I've read the scripts. It's just, but it's really, it's Jeremy Carver and the writers did an incredible job. And also, you have characters like, Brendan Fraser, who I adore, plays a character named Robot Man, who is a race car driver who gets in an accident, and basically the doctor, Niles Calder, who is played by Timothy Dalton, has taken his brain and put it in a robot body. So he's like, and it's the voice of Brendan Fraser, and in flashbacks it is Brendan Fraser, and he's hysterical. And yeah, it really hits a number of issues in a way, like, and it attacks a number of social issues and just personal issues, while at the same time being ridiculous and having things that you're just like, what is going on? It's really just a one-of-a-kind show. It's a really one-of-a-kind show.
I definitely will have to check it out. On your bio, there was a section about your battle with cancer, which I'm sorry to hear about.
Well, thank you.
But I'm familiar with it because my father went through that. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Is it still ongoing, or are you still doing treatments, or was this something or not now?
I'm still on medication so it's technically a form of chemotherapy. Technically, I'm in remission.
Oh, that's great.
But I'm also on medication to prevent a reoccurrence. So back in 2018, I had gone in for a semi-routine like CAT scan for my neck, because, as I mentioned, I'm a fitness instructor, etc. And I was having some pain in my hands, and I thought maybe I had a pinched disc or something. And while they were doing a CAT scan MRI, they found a small tumor on my thyroid, which is a really common cancer. Lots of people get it. Apparently, it's one of those cancers that they talk about. Like, a lot of times they'll be like, all men get prostate cancer, depending on how old they get. It just happens eventually. Like, apparently thyroid cancer is one of those cancers. And what ended up happening is they're like, my doctor was like, well, it's little and we can watch it. And I, being in America, I had good insurance because I had been working, and I had it through my union. And I was like, well, let's find out what it is. And it turned out to be cancerous. And then I went to see a surgeon who was like, yeah, you need to take it out. And I'm like, okay. So I went and I was going to have it removed. And the week before I was supposed to have it removed, I was putting myself on tape, which is what we do as actors a lot of times, and have been doing, and I think is kind of where the industry will shift, at least temporarily, where you have your own setup and you tape a scene or whatever, and you send in your audition. And it was for a role that took place, or the character was, kind of 18th century, and I had this like bustier thing. So I was moving my breastises around, and I reached under my right breast, and I felt what to me felt like a marble in a sandbag. And I was like, that's not right. And I called my husband in from the other room, and I was like, honey, come here, you need to feel this. And he's like, ooh, I'm going to get lucky. And I'm like, no, you're not, but I need you to feel this. And I was like, oh, crap. Because, when you find stuff in your body, you're like, I don't think this is right. So it was the Saturday before I was supposed to go in for this surgery. I called my doctor and I was like, hey, I think I found there's a lump in my breast. I think we need to have it checked out. She's like, great. She's like, we're going to have to schedule for a mammogram or an ultrasound. And I said, great, but I'm going in for surgery. And so I went in for my surgery. I got out. And then that next Monday, I'd had surgery on a Thursday. That next Monday, I went in and I had this thing around my neck because there was this like big incision they had closed because they cut into your throat, which is kind of really aggressive. And luckily, everything went well. It went well. And, I did the ultrasound and a couple days, and I did the mammogram, and then I went to do the ultrasound, and the technician or the doctor came in, and she did that thing. Douglas. She was like, wow. And I was like, oh shit.
Oh yeah, I don't like when they say that.
It's the soft talk. Like, it's that thing that like they get that, like it's what funeral directors
yes.
My father passed away. It's like anybody who has to give you bad news, and I get it. Yeah. But I'm just like, you're giving it away. It's like, well, I think, and I was like, oh crap. And so then they do something, what they do is they biopsy it. They like stick a needle in and they take a part of the tissue. And so all this went on relatively, I was kind of impressed because it actually went pretty fast, which I was really surprised at. It took about, like, I had my ultrasound and then like the week later I had my biopsy, and I got my biopsy results back the morning I was teaching at the gym that I teach at. And I'm in the UCLA healthcare system in California, and it's all computerized. So if you get a test result back, they have a chart. So everything's like on the web, and they give you get an email. It says, oh, it's all back. So I'm teaching and this alert comes up and I'm like, oh, okay. And I try to get on it on my phone after I finished my class. I'm trying to get on it. And I can't get on it. And that day I'm supposed to go back and see my surgeon because I'm having a follow-up just to see everything's okay. So I call my husband and I'm like, I can't get into this. I'm driving home. You need to see like what it is. Because in my brain, I'm like, I think it's cancer, but I think it's going to be, if it's going to be cancer, I'm like, it'll be like my thyroid cancer. You'll just cut it out and, they'll go in, they'll cut it out. It'll be done. It'll be done. So my poor husband is like, goes in my thing. And as I'm driving home, he's like, well, you have, lobular, he's like telling me, and you can tell he doesn't know how to tell me because he's afraid I'm going to get into a car accident or something. Okay. All right. So I have an appointment, and I kind of went into that chat. I'm like, okay, here's what we need to do. We need to call. Can you do me a favor? Call, my surgeon. Let's see if we can move my appointment earlier. Cause if there's one thing I know with, healthcare systems, you have to go to your doctor to then get a referral to go. And I'm like, and looks like we're going to have to do this referral thing. So we might as well see if we can get in today. And so we managed to move my follow-up appointment earlier and my other appointment later, for my primary care physician. And so we went to the doctor's office, and I was like, and I don't know, you get the word that you have cancer and everything kind of just stops and you kind of go into shock. And I tend to be good. And I'm really thankful. Like both of us, my husband and I are under pressure, in a crisis. I'm good in crisis mode. Like I'm really good at compartmentalizing, shutting down, and just kind of moving through, which was really helpful. And so basically we went to the doctor. I walk in, my surgeon is like, what the hell? And I'm like, I know. And she's like, what is going on? And I'm like, I don't know. And it was really a strange and synchronicitous, cancer is an awful thing. And I'm not trying to make it lightly, but I had the year before I had gone through a rash of my father passed away, and a bunch of people dying. So it was kind of like, I was kind of like, okay, universe, what's going on? And you I don't want to say the word kind of beats you down. It doesn't beat you down, but I feel like it gets you to a place that you're just like, okay, random crap is going to happen and you just got to roll with it. Because if you fight it, it's going to be exhausting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I came into this office and the doctor was like, well, what are you doing for the rest of today? What are you doing later today? And I was like, well, pretty much I'm going to try and deal with this. I'm going to see my doctor. I mean, I'm not doing anything. I just got diagnosed with breast cancer. I mean, I think that pretty much takes the thing up. And she was like, well, here's the deal. She's like, this office that we're in, we share the office space with the head of the Revlon, the head of surgery for the Revlon, or the senior surgeon for UCLA's Revlon Breast Cancer Center. And I was like, okay. And she's like, and she's doing office hours today. So let us see if we can fit you in today if you're already here. And I was like, oh my God. So it was this weird, it went from being, yes, I guess tragic-ish, just, or hard, to being like we were in this surreal version of Grey's Anatomy. Because doctor's appointments, in this process, it's usually it's you get this and then you wait. And sometimes things move really fast, sometimes they don't. But we went in. She was like, let me see if we can get you in. Can you guys hang out? We're like, great. We went down to get some, lunch. We get a call. We run back up to the office. And next thing I know, I'm talking to the senior surgeon, my doctor who's going to be doing surgery, explaining what kind of cancer I have and how we want to do reconstruction. And she's like, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to do a mastectomy or possibly a double mastectomy and then reconstruction in the same operation. So your body doesn't have to go under so much. So I would like you to, and that's only if you like, you get along with, the plastic surgeon who I work with. And I'm like, great. Okay, well, we'll talk to you later. I'll come for my great. Okay, that's the plan. 10 minutes later, head of plastic surgery, who she works in, walks in and like, hi, this is what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah.
That's incredible. Yeah.
And I was like, and we got done. And then I went and got some blood tests. And I was like, so am I just going in and getting it done tomorrow? Because I figured, and I called my primary care physician because I was like, so do I even need to come see you now? Like, I kind of jumped the line in a really weird way. And she's like, yeah, you need to come see me. And I was like, okay. We came in and she's like, okay, how are you doing? She was all like, how are you doing? You just saw like 5 doctors and you just got another cancer diagnosis. Like, are you freaking out? I'm like, well, I could use a drink. And she's like, do you need any Advan or anything? Like, I think you might need and I was like, I think I'm okay. But it just was this bizarre whirlwind of all this happened. And then for like 6 weeks, nothing happened because I assumed because it had gone so fast, it would be surgery and whatnot. And it wasn't. You have to go through it does take time. And, so that happened in July. And then I went and had a double mastectomy with reconstruction. I only had cancer in one breast, but there was a 30% chance it could travel to the other one. And some women are very attached to their breasts. I am not. I had a very frank conversation with the doctor who was like, well, we could rebuild or put this in. And I literally was like, what's going to look better? And he was like, well, and I was like, no, I'm like, I'm not really attached. Like, it's not a big, some people are very, very, tell me what's going to look better after it's all done. Like, if you're going to get, let's get me an upgrade. And he was like, if I do both, it will look better. I'm like, great. Okay, done. Cut them both off. It's one of those things where you're like, hey, this could kill me, or I could get new boobs. I don't know.
It's not to make an LA joke, but there's certainly plenty of women in LA that are getting them without cancer. Exactly.
And I'm like, and I gotta say, my doctor, he does really nice work. But so basically, so I went through and did what most women do. You go and you have your surgery. And it's after that, well, depending upon where you are, for me, some people have chemo and radiation before. For me, they needed to determine if the cancer had spread. So, it was a pretty large tumor. Actually, I was like, damn, it was like 4 centimeters, which is pretty large. And they also took out a couple of my lymph nodes. And, what was crazy initially when I was diagnosed is I had a mammogram I'd gone for routine mammograms and I'd had one 6 months before. And one of the things that struck me is that my doctor, when we got the second mammogram after this diagnosis, she had put them both up on the kind of wall and showed to compare and contrast, and you could barely tell a difference. You couldn't tell a difference because the type of cancer I had, instead of the cells making a circle that looks like a tumor, it's called it's a form of breast cancer that's called lobular, and they line up in lines. And so when you press it down, it just looks like a line until it gets big enough that you can detect it. So by sheer randomness, I had found it, and she was like, it's really good you did, because it did travel into my lymph nodes. It only traveled into the first couple, which made it they called it stage 2 because it goes outside of the tumor in the breast, but it didn't travel to anywhere else in my body. And so as a result of it traveling that far, I was kind of on the ledge of, do we do chemo? Do we do radiation? What do we do? And they were kind of like, well, you're super healthy, so we're going to firebomb you. And I'm like, great. So we set out that, it's going to be 4 to 6 sessions of chemotherapy. They waited till I recovered. And in the midst of this, right before I went in for surgery, I booked a movie called Call of the Wild with Harrison Ford that came out in February. So I found out the week before I was going in for surgery that I booked this job on the biggest movie I'd ever been on. And I was like, oh, that's great. When is it shooting? Because I'm having when is it shooting? Will I be recovered? And I, again, in that weird synchronicitous in terms of, like, I keep looking at it as like, if the universe is going to give you really crappy news, apparently they're going to back it up with something good. And I ended up shooting this movie with Harrison Ford. Basically the week I was supposed to go back to work.
I got to ask, how was it working with Harrison Ford?
I did not work directly with Harrison Ford. I was in proximity of Harrison Ford,
Proximity,
which was
okay.
a childhood dream, because I play the postmaster, and he is the coolest cat around. He was on set and for the scene because everyone gets mail and stuff, and they had built this set in Santa Clarita, and my favorite story from that, it was the day that we were all working, and he was in the scene with one of the scenes that we were in. And they have, holding for all your actors. And they were holding us, as it were, like some of in the practical bar set. Like they built a real bar and we were all kind of hanging out in there. And Harrison was hanging out in there too. There were other, namier actors who were not. But he was just like, whatever, this is my seat. And he was very friendly. And I remember we took a break and he had come back from getting some I think a snack from the snack bar, and I had gone off because it was a lot of digital stuff, so they had to like digitally take photos of you when they were altering stuff and making it all fit. And I remember walking in, and Harrison Ford had a packing blanket on the floor of this practical bar, and he was laying down taking a nap, just like on the floor of the bar, just like everybody there. And I was just like, oh my God, you're so cool. Yeah, he was so just lovely. And, I went to the premiere and just, and he was there, and just the way he handles his notoriety and his fame, he's so gracious and just so cool.
Well, it's nice to hear because sometimes you hear stories of people where they have to have their own trailer. They don't want to talk to anybody else who's on the set, and
they don't want to make eye contact.
Right, they come do their scene, and that's it. They're gone, and don't touch me. That kind of.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, we do have to wrap it up. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Do you have a website or anything you want to give out to?
I do actually. I can be reached on the social medias at SKI Says. My acting website is just my name, Stephanie Czajkowski. And then we actually are attempting the launch of we did for my cancer journey, just because we found that there was nothing about how couples handle this. And it's just a weird dynamic to go through with your husband and how you react and how cancer affects everything. So we started a website called chemoskinny.com, which we're trying to add a podcast aspect to, and we did the first one, so we'll see how that goes.
Oh, great. My guest is Stephanie Czajkowski. Thank you so much for coming on. This was a very nice conversation. Best of luck with everything you're doing and with your cancer situation. I hope that keeps going in the right direction.
No, thanks so much, Douglas. Really, really appreciate you having me on.
Okay, take care.
Okay, bye-bye.